What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with some news coming in the form of This Week at Bungie. And today they speak primarily about trials and changes that they're going to be bringing to the flawless matchmaking pool, which is essentially being replaced by a different skill system. So they talk about that as well as freelance trials, but also we got a new update to the game today that brought a few different changes, including a nerf to the Telesto. Plus there are a couple of other things which we'll mention in the video. So as always guys, if you enjoy this one, be sure to get subscribed to the channel so I can keep you posted with Destiny 2 news. But now let's get into it. Firstly, today we did have a new hotfix for the game, and it came with at least a couple of unexpected changes. So this is hotfix 3312, and the change that most people will be interested in is Telesto. So Bungie say they fixed some issues with Telesto, but also that it no longer attaches to allies and will instead impact and detonate. And then bolts can no longer be shot and destroyed. And finally, they have reduced the bolt lifetime from 10 seconds to 5 seconds when spawned on the environment. They point out that proximity to enemies will still detonate. So Bungie have definitely taken a bit more of a stab at the Telesto this time around. Of course, it's famous for being the most problematic exotic in Destiny 2, attaching projectiles to allies and also being able to destroy those projectiles with weapons. Definitely feed into a couple of the ways that the weapon can break the game. So it'll be interesting to see which exploits pop up next. I'm still fairly confident Telesto will find its way to breaking something, but give us any thoughts you may have about it down below. Also in the patch today, for Nightfalls, they say they've changed how mini-screeps from the Festering Rupture modifier are networked to give a more consistent experience, and this should prevent mini-screeps from burrowing into the ground and ending otherwise perfect Nightfall runs. So a small mini-screep nerf right there, I suppose. And then for competitive, for the Trials of Osiris and other match-made activities, Bungie say they should no longer trigger baboon errors if players quit between rounds or during a hard wipe. Then for abilities, in general, they fixed an issue that allowed allied players to be damaged and frozen by Diamond Lance, and a problem where more Sentinel Shield super energy was being drained by Scorn sniper attacks than intended. And then finally for the UI, they've updated the description of the Pinnacle Seasonal Challenge to better direct players to Pinnacle tiered rewards. So that does it for the changes inside of hotfix 3312. I believe it was just over 100 megabytes, something like that. And as always, give us any thoughts you may have down in the comments section. Next though, in the TWAB, Bungie say we're about to hit the fever pitch of spookiness, but that also means it's almost time to start packing up the tower decorations and saying goodbye to Eva Levante. And of course we have until the weekly reset on Tuesday, November 2nd to finish all of the Festival of the Lost stuff, so certainly bear that in mind. But next, Bungie jump in and they talk about trials. They give a whole bunch of stats for the freelance playlist, as well as trials over the past few weeks. And on the subject of freelance, they say one of the things they're not happy with is team balance, and they've noticed that the solo playlist isn't doing a great job of balancing two teams when there aren't any fireteam mismatches. For trials, it's currently just picking teams randomly, and they say they're going to be looking very carefully at how teams are selected over the next few weeks, and they hope to have a better balance the next time freelance rolls around. This is one of the downsides of not using skill-based matchmaking in trials, in situations where skill would be helpful to balance two teams of solo players. And so they are looking at changes for the next time freelance rolls around. However, for the flawless pool, which they say they've been enabling on Sunday at reset time, has some very positive benefits. They say it raises overall match quality, and it raises the overall win rates of solo players. However, it has some drastic downsides. For players who struggle and manage to just barely go flawless, it's a steep cliff to then only play against players who have already gone flawless for the week. It also incentivizes behavior that is at odds with the mode and the reward systems, like resetting a flawless 6-win ticket to keep getting easier matches. They say it also creates friction where players need to decide between playing with friends or playing for rewards. So starting tomorrow, they say they're rolling out a new system and leaning into weekly performance metrics. Whenever you match in trials, in addition to trying to match with people of the same number of wins on a card, you will also attempt to match with people who have roughly the same number of overall wins for the weekend. If you can't find anyone to match against, it will eventually expand out to find you a less similar match. And they say for the PvP gods who go flawless 10 times in a weekend, they'll end up matching with other players who have, for example, got 70 wins on their cards no matter how they got them. And for the average team who gets a lucky flawless in on Friday or Saturday on their first card, they'll be matching against other players with around 7 wins no matter how they got them. And they say they're hoping this will give many benefits just like the flawless pool without the significant downsides. and there should be no major inflection point where everything is smooth prior to a win, and then everything is overly challenging after. While this allows us to remove the flawless pool, it does have a potential downside, which could be longer matchmaking times. And so they're saying hopefully it'll be a reasonable trade-off between match quality and matchmaking time. But over the next few weekends, they're going to be looking at how much matchmaking time goes up and how that affects match quality. So very interesting right there that Bungie are going to be making that adjustment to a more skill-based system as opposed to simply using a flawless pool. One of the benefits is that it's actually going to adjust multiple issues inside of trials, like resetting cards at 6 wins, as they said, as well as hopefully being a more relevant matchmaking tool for players in the game. So give us any thoughts that you may have about that. Also in the TWAB though, they point out that Saladin will be returning with the Iron Banner next week. And after Iron Banner ends, we'll have trials going throughout November with new matchmaking. So bear that in mind. But also in the TWAB, they point out that we do have a new community manager. So Liana is joining the community manager team, but they point out that Cosmo and DMG will continue to work on the community team as well. So of course, a warm welcome to Liana, the new community manager for Bungie. Some other things to mention for the video today, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there have been groups of players since Weekly Reset holding Xur hostage, or at least that's how it's being referred to. And as we've discussed in some videos recently, of course Xur does stick around after Weekly Reset. That is until new lobbies are generated. So what folks have taken to doing now is actually staying with Xur when we tick over the Weekly Reset. And as we've seen, his legendary inventory of weapons does update. Just over the past couple of days, he's had a very nice true prophecy. And players are trading these lobbies around, inviting different folks in to come and visit Xur, doing it on LFG and Reddit and things like that, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure if any are still going at this precise moment, but there were lobbies until the early hours of this morning at least. And interestingly, Xur's weapon rolls actually changed again in the middle of the week, which is something that Banshee does. So it seems that Xur is on the same timer, or maybe even a daily timer or something. Then it seems that the actual rolls that Xur should have for the weekend are set on Friday. So it pretty much means that he could have a whole bunch of different weapon rolls, which actually could be pretty nice. But in order to do this, again, it relies on players keeping the lobby that actually has Xur in it and ensuring it doesn't get abandoned completely. I'm guessing after Weekly Reset, Bungie stopped connecting new players to older lobbies or prioritize newer lobbies until eventually the ones from before Reset are totally gone. But it's interesting because of course Xur seems to be tied to those actual lobbies as opposed to spawning in and out of the open world precisely when he should, right? And so next week when we go into the Weekly Reset, definitely worth keeping an eye on Xur if you are currently logged into the game. Or indeed, you can head over to LFG, Reddit, and things like that and find players who are actually hosting lobbies, letting folks jump in, go see Xur, and just kind of rinsing and repeating. So we'll bear that in mind for next week, and of course, we'll see what he has for his actual roles for the weekend, as well as the exotics tomorrow on Friday. Let us know if you've had any experience of that. And the final thing I wanted to touch on here, but just found an interesting article from the Game Post, and in a recent Microsoft call, it was revealed that Bungie is using Microsoft's cloud services at the moment to actually scale and operate the games. So interestingly, a bunch of the back-end stuff for Destiny 2 is actually running over Microsoft Cloud. And it's also stated that the two companies will explore joint development of future cloud solutions in Microsoft Azure to support their respective game and content streaming services. And so of course it's likely to be a toolset that Bungie continue to use for their upcoming titles and the new IP that they're looking to launch by 2025. And so while there aren't any exclusivities there that we know of, there are a few different sides to the relationship between Bungie and Microsoft still at the moment, so I thought that was interesting and I'll link the article down below. But for now guys, that's what we have to talk about in the video today. So as always, I hope you found this one interesting, and if you have, be sure to get subscribed to the channel and turn on notifications so I can keep you posted with everything related to the game. A like rating down below also really does help us out, and feel free to share any thoughts you may have in the comments section. But otherwise guys, for now, I appreciate you tuning in and hope you have an awesome day.